Okay, so as I've mentioned previously, my name's Candice and I'm project coordinator for Hampshire County Council, and I'm part of the SEND Employability team. I've got a bit of a delay. Hopefully the slides moved on your side. So Tony and I wanted to come and speak to you today about supported internships and supported apprenticeships, because we see these as a really valuable recruitment solution for employers across the county, including ourselves, including Hampshire County Council. It's something we are working on internally as well as externally. So just to give you a very brief overview about what supported internships are, they're basically, as it says on screen, they're a work-based learning program. So what that means in real terms is the young person's on a full-time education course, but they spend the majority of their time in work on a placement. So these are for young people aged 16 to 24 with an education, health and care plan. And it's for young people who are seeking employment. So if someone, for example, was on a pathway and wanted to go into university, then it's probably not the best course for them. Whereas if you've got a young person who wants to go into work, this is a really good stepping stone between college or education and moving into employment. It is a partnership between the employer and the education provider. I'm going to come into that a little bit more in a minute. Ongoing support from the education provider, including a job or skills coach. Again, I'm going to talk about that a bit more in a minute. And the duration of the placements are quite flexible. So the actual supported internship generally lasts 6 months to a year, but ideally that young person would do 3 different placements within that time. Again, the 20 hours a week is flexible, depending on what an employer's needs are and what the young person's needs are. It might be that they start doing, say, an afternoon a week, for example, and then slowly increase that to a day a week, to 2 days, to 3 days, etc. So they are really flexible programs to make sure that they meet the employer's needs and the learner's needs as well. And the young person will have the opportunity to complete qualifications relevant to their work placement. So, for example, we've got learners who have done health and safety who are doing placements within the catering industry or construction sector, or if they're doing childcare, they will do their DBS and things like that. So they do learn relevant qualifications alongside their program as well. The other thing to mention is that this supported internship, the education provider works with the young person to really embed those softer skills. So it's those things that to make sure they turn up on time, to help them learn appropriate communication, all of those, like those softer skills that you develop from being in the workplace. They will actually have done some work on those, and they have the job coach there as well to support them, and they really build on those soft skills. So you've got that extra level of support. The other option, and ideally the next step from a supported internship, is a supported apprenticeship. I say ideally because they are good stepping stones, but actually this is a great pathway in its own right. The only difference between a supported apprenticeship and a standard apprenticeship is the framework is the same. The person is on an apprenticeship. However, if they're on a supported apprenticeship or an inclusive apprenticeship, as it's sometimes known, the young person, the apprentice, is able to take entry level 3 qualifications in English and maths instead of level 2, and they can request reasonable adjustments at the endpoint assessment as well. But what they study in the framework will remain the same. It's just that they can have those extra levels of support put in. If any adaptations are needed in the workplace as well for both the supported apprenticeship and the supported internship, these can be put in place and you can claim for ways into work for those as well. But again, I'm going to come on to that in a bit more detail in a minute. So as employers, as much as you would probably like to do this, to be giving back to the young people and helping them strive to improve their careers and giving them that first sort of step into the employment market, we understand that it has to work for you and your business case as well. Um, so we've got a bit of information about what having a supported internship, a placement, what that will actually bring to your company, your organisation. So it can save time and money spent on recruitment. So what we mean by this is you could offer the supported internship fundamentally is a job trial. So you could have that young person working with you, teach them the skills that you want them to have and what your department needs, and embed these skills with the young person. It's also, I think it's 3.5. A young person with learning difficulties are 3.5 times more likely to stay in employment than their peers as well. So you're not having to replace people constantly because they are motivated, they're loyal, they want to be at work, and they like routine and structure in some cases, not all, but in some. So that will make them want to stay in that role for longer. You get the right person for the job rather than the best person at interview. What better way to see if someone can do the job than to actually get them to do the job in the first place? So, by having this supported intern placement, you are seeing whether they are capable of doing the job and the tasks rather than whether they can answer questions best. So, it's a really good way of making sure that you are getting the right person for your job. Also, where the education provider comes into it, they will actually speak with you, find out what it is that you need, so what the role involves, what the tasks are. They will then use their knowledge of the supported internship, supported interns, um, and they will match you to make sure you get the best person for that job. So you're getting a free recruitment service, to be honest, and it's making sure that your job suits that person and that person suits you. So it makes sure that you do have that sort of the right person, basically. So it ensures that your workforce more accurately represents your community and customers. It improves morale and team working. We had a supported intern come into our team last academic year, and I've seen it for myself. Everyone in the team laughs more, they joke more. If you've got members of staff that want to sort of take on a mentor in a buddy role, it's a really good opportunity for them as well. Um, you can, we did an event last week, week before, and we had some employers in the hospitality and catering sector come and talk about their experiences. And one of them actually said that having having they had a young person with a learning difficulty or disability, their supported intern, so they put on some disability training for their team, so who would be working with this young person. And they actually said that the team found that really beneficial, and they started using it in their personal lives as well as their professional lives when they were noticing traits in family members and things like that as well. So it really does bring a lot to the team, as well as demonstrating corporate social responsibility. And again, as I've already mentioned, the job coach will support the learner in the workplace and be available to support you as the employer. So they will remain that link. So where if you went for a recruitment agency, for example, they might place the person with you and then that's their bit done. You pay them, off they trot. With this, it is a free service, as I've already mentioned, but the job coach will actually come into the workplace with the young person, support them on the job as well, and then gradually move away as they become more independent. But they will stay as the link between you and the learner and the education provider. So if there's anything you needed support with, you could then speak to the job coach and they would be able to have those conversations with the young person on your behalf. Let me move on. So how much will it cost? This is always a question we get asked. And we know from Milestone Infrastructure and Minster Trust, who I see is on this call, it can cost as little as £80. So this is even lower recruitment costs if you engage with a supported internship program first, because the reasons that I've already outlined. But also you can apply to Access to Work. And I've put some quotes in here from the Access to Work page because I'd never remember it word for word. But they can provide practical and financial support for people who have a disability or physical or mental health condition. And support can be provided where someone needs support or adaptations beyond reasonable adjustments. So Access to Work can also be used for flexible working, such as hybrid working. I thought it was really important to include this because of the way things have changed since COVID. Lots of people, we're being told, are now working from home. So it's important to know that actually they can help with those at home costs as well as to enable hybrid working, as well as in the office. So I thought that was quite important to raise. And for supported internships, Access to Work will fund additional travel, a job coach and other support, including costs of equipment if appropriate, and promote the smooth transition into paid employment. And if you claim within the first 6 weeks of having someone with you, then Access to Work will actually pay 100% of those costs as well, which is brilliant. That has just reminded me, one important thing I should have said about supported internships is ideally a supported internship would then progress onto that paid employment, whether that be through an apprenticeship, a supported apprenticeship, part-time work or full-time paid work. We do get asked quite often, what if we don't know if we're going to have that option at the end? And what we always say is we have to be realistic. We don't know, none of us have got crystal balls. We don't know what's going to happen in the future. But even if you're not able to offer that opportunity at the end, everything that you've offered on that work placement and what that young person has gained from being a part of your team, they will actually have that for life. So they'll be able to take that experience away. And there's research that shows that they'll be more successful in future careers the more engagements they have with the workplace. So although it's ideal to have that paid outcome at the end, being able to offer that, if you don't, it's not the end of the world because they are still benefiting. I've already mentioned about the job coach. So another thing we hear often is that my team won't have the time or resources. We're not asking you to babysit. This young person needs to have meaningful employment. So they need to have it's no good doing it just because you want to help someone out. You actually need to have a job or a task that you need completing. So it needs to be meaningful engagement. And to make sure that the young person is able to meet your requirements, that's where the job coach would come in, learn about the job, match you with the right young person, and then be on hand to support that young person throughout their time on the placement. And then as their confidence and skills grow, they can start slowly moving away until the learner is completely independent. So if it's done well, then the learner will actually give your team time back because they can take maybe some more of the entry level tasks out of roles to free up your time and your team's time to focus on the more specific duties. So it can actually have the opposite effect. Me speaking is absolutely fine, but I thought it might help you to see a case study that we've recently been given. And this is actually at Basingstoke District Borough Council. So I thought hopefully it's relevant and it will help you to help put my words into real meaning. So hopefully this is going to play sound because I'm not quite sure how to tell it to play sound. Let me just check. Let's see. Could someone let me know if you can hear it, please?
No, we can't.
No. Okay, let me find out. I'm not overly familiar with
subtitles are up.
There should be a way of doing the sound. Display settings.
Okay, as Caroline says, the subtitles are there, so we could probably get some sense of it if you do get stuck.
If you
click the little up arrow next to your microphone, there's options of speakers.
Oh, I don't have a microphone.
The little mute button at the bottom left in Zoom. There's options to select speakers. So if you change it to one of the other ones, it might pop through. Does that make sense, Candice?
It does, but I don't have the same options because I'm in slideshow mode.
Okay.
Oh, right.
Hold on. Let's go with the subtitles for now, and then what I'll do is drop the link in the chat so that you can review it. Would that be okay?
Yeah, sure. I'll do a post about this when we put the video up, so we can put the link in.
Perfect. Right, let me just try and take it back to the start. Oh, I love technology when it goes wrong. Okay, hopefully even without the sound, reading the subtitles, it's given you a bit of an idea. But the most simple way of putting it is businesses across Hampshire have skills gaps and recruitment needs. And we have this amazing pool of talent who are motivated, they're loyal, they want to work. We just need to bring everyone together, and it just would solve all of those problems. So it would equal success, as I've put on the slide. I've just put up the final slide. So if anyone has any questions, obviously I'll answer questions in a moment, but from the recording, you can email me at candice.reynolds@hants.gov.uk, or you can contact our Employment and Skills Hub at Hampshire County Council at esh.shared@hants.gov.uk. So I will stop sharing now so I can see everybody again. Right, hopefully that stopped.
Not yet.
Oh,
That's it.
is it finished now?
Excellent. There you are. Yep. Hopefully you've got us all back on your screen.
I do.
Well, thank you. That was quite an inspiring presentation, and I think the YouTube came across well with the captions, and I see that Caroline's got her hand up already, so over to you, Caroline.
Hello, Candice. We've been hearing a lot about council workers wanting to work from the beach. You know, it's all the rage these days. They don't want to go into work. Have you been affected by the work from home? Because my concern when it first started, do you remember they were asking businesses to take apprentices? My concern was that people were going to kind of put them in there and not take any care of them because there wouldn't be any team there. How are you getting round people not being at work so much because they wanted to work from home?
So we have we've had different. Every employer we speak to seems to do it slightly differently. And even internally, we have some departments that have to be in once or twice a week, and others who might come in once a month, or even just as and when. So I think it very much depends on the team. Ideally, the learner would be in on a day when there is like a buddy or mentor. But at the same time, the idea of the placement is that it does reflect real work. It is real work. So actually, if there are days when you're in the office and other days when you're working from home, then a good experience for that learner would be to have that same opportunity. I think the key would be to, well, the same as we all do, make sure that they are supported, they feel part of the team, there's open communication channels. All those things that we've all had to implement by moving more virtual would need to be there to support them as well. And I guess it would also be down to the education provider to make sure that their job coach is supporting them and to work out how best that would work. So that was a really long-winded way of not actually answering your question, but I think it very much depends on the team and the requirements of the team. Some of these jobs will be, the requirement will be you have to be in work. So for example, if the learner's doing childcare, they have to be in a nursery.
Yeah.
If they're doing maintenance, they have to be out on the countryside. Sorry, I totally forgot the word for 1 second. Whereas if it's an option to work from home, then the same as everybody, it's got to work for everyone involved. Because as we all know, it doesn't work for everybody, and some people would not want to do it.
Yeah.
So it's very much situation dependent, both from a business perspective and a young person.
Can I also just add in there that often our supported internships are utilised for entry-level positions? And I'm making a huge generalisation here, but generally entry-level positions require in-person work. So, for example, things like porters in hotels, and that's... Sorry, I'm not on camera, people, because I haven't been very well for a couple of days, and I'm really sure no one wants to see it. Just to be completely honest with all of you.
She's being very modest. She's had tonsillitis, and today's her first day back at work, and she's not even in the office. Yeah. Yes, so I'm very lucky to have her here today.
I'm just aware I'm trying to help respond to questions, and I'm just this black box on a screen. But it is very much for your guys' benefit. So we generally find in a lot of our entry-level positions that they are based in a place. Often, and as Candy said, when we're talking about entry-level admin, there is often some out of work, but that is very much supported by teams delivering those services. So it is an issue we do come up against. A lot of our colleges now provide at least one work experience that is remote working because of the way the world is changing. But on the whole, a lot of these positions are entry-level and therefore in person.
Thank you.
Thank you,
I thought Andy and his team at Basingstoke and Dean illustrated it very well, talking about, in their case, grounds maintenance. It worked well because it was a hands-on role where you've got to be there in person, but it was also clear that the team around the staff members were benefiting from the feeling they got from supporting someone. And that's a point that Candice made in her slides as well. And it's an aspect I hadn't thought about, that it actually can produce a feel-good factor for your team as well. So I think it made a very good case there, Candice.
Just to comment on the great work that Minstead did with Milestone Infrastructure shows a huge benefit to the productivity and staff morale that comes out of these sorts of placements. And we've got lots of case studies since. And I know that case study from Minstead is a little bit old now, but for me, when the guys from Milestone talk about it, that comes across in their passion. And that, I think, is such a benefit. And something, as you just said, Rob, that we don't really consider, that what the benefits for the rest of our team will be.
Apart from seeing some of the work that goes on with Jay's colleagues at Minstead, in fact, I have as a client of mine an outfit in Southampton called Trojan Mailing. Trojan's a CIC whose place in the world is to provide placements for people to do, in their case, envelope stuffing and managing print machines and things like that. And I've been into that workplace many times to meet with the management there over their website that I look after for them. And it's clear, what a great time their staff members have coming in for their half day's work or whatever it is at Trojan, and how it gets them out of home, it gets them socializing with other people, and it gets them working, which is gives them a feeling of achievement.
Yeah, definitely. There's a really good another video which I was going to play but didn't because of the sound issues, but I'll drop it into the chat. But it talks about the hiring chain. So it's really good at seeing also how, by making these small adjustments ourselves and bringing more people, more young people with special educational needs and disabilities into the workplace, we can actually encourage other people to do it as well. Because especially like Tony says, if they're in entry level, very visible positions, then actually people will see them, engage with them, think you're doing it really well. Maybe you could come and help my business. And it sort of has a dominoes effect as well. So it's a really positive thing to do. But I've popped it in the chat, so hopefully you can all access that when you have time. It's only a short video. But you definitely need sound with that one. They sing.
Any other comments or thoughts from others in the audience?
I was going to mention to both ladies at Hampshire County Council, I don't know whether you get sight of the ASCOF report. Does that mean anything to you? Have you heard of that before?
Not to me. I don't know if it does you, Tony.
No, it doesn't ring a bell, but if you tell me what it covers, it might be something I've read and not caught the title of. I'm going to be totally honest. The brain is not firing as well as it normally does.
That's absolutely fine. So ASCOF is Adult Social Care Outcomes Framework England, and it's reported data from councils across the UK. So normally that data comes out in October, but it's due out in December this year. But when we look at the figures for last year, it talks about working aged people with learning disabilities and the number of people with learning disabilities in employment. And in Southampton, the percentage of people with a learning disability in employment was 3.1%. Which is about 15 people. In Portsmouth, it's 2.8, and in Hampshire, it's 4.9, which is about 140 people. England is 4.8, which is just over 6,000 people. So from that, and that's only the figures that are known to councils. Of course, there's lots of people that are unknown to councils, so they can only report on the data that they have, but it's quite shocking. And being in the industry that we're in, we're not expecting those figures to increase this year. In fact, it's likely that they will decline, and they've been on the decline for the last 5 years. So I absolutely echo what you're trying to do. We're trying to do exactly the same. And we're very keen to make a difference in Minstead. And simply, if we could pass through 5 apprentices and secure employment for them, it would change the dial by 1%. Southampton.
Yeah, and those figures have been, there was a point there about 5 years ago where they were climbing every year and things were looking good. And then COVID hit, and we know that people with disabilities and additional needs were exponentially hit by redundancies. They were let go of jobs rather than put on furlough. They were less likely to be able to re-enter the workplace. And yeah, those numbers went through the floor, and it is disappointing when we were just starting to see progress in the right direction. But yeah, there's so much work to be done, and small differences make a huge difference. So and Minstead, I've done quite a bit of work with Minstead over my time, and you guys are an amazing organisation. I love going up to Fursley Gardens. It's one of my favourite places. And going and talking to your guys there. And I'm actually due to meet with Lois later in the week to talk about how we can work together a bit more as well. So I think it's all about, rather than fighting for our bit of the pie, how we all work together to make this more effective across the board. And that, I think, is everyone doing this job is just focusing on that, which is really great. But yes, those stats are not positive, but
shocking.
There's some good stats. Like
they're shocking.
We know young people with SEND who have 4 positive engagements with the workplace are 5 times more likely to gain paid employment and maintain it at 2 years. So that's a really small thing we can do, positive engagements with workplaces. And that's kind of where we try and get that. And those supported internships, outcomes into entry-level jobs, they're more likely to stay in entry-level for 7 years. For our skills and recovery plan, these young people and adults are committed members of our skills team and really bring a lot to our skills market. So it's just about getting that messaging out there, isn't it? But I think I'm preaching to the converted, aren't I? I think we're all on the same page.
You certainly are. I'm on your side. Waving the flag.
Yeah. No, it's a great it's great to hear that work such as you're doing at Hampshire, and many of us already know about the work at Minster Trust and feel very warm about that. While you've been speaking, I've done some surreptitious Google searching. I've worked out what you need to do to share sound on YouTube video. So Candice, if you're feeling brave, you can do it, or alternatively I'll have a go at doing it, whichever you like.
I don't mind. I'll have a go. So do I share my screen again?
So if you click on the green share screen button and you get the white pop-up.
Oh, also share audio.
Yeah, you got it. You're there.
Yeah, sorry, I missed that the first time round.
I've never used it. Every day's a learning day, I tell you, when you work in technology.
Right, okay, let's see if this works. I'm screen sharing apparently, so I'll make it big. Do you have sound?
No, we don't.
No?
Let me have a go. So if you end the share, let me see if I can make it work off my sharing.
Okay, I've stopped sharing.
Right, let's see if I can get it to play.
It might be my system settings.
Yeah, I'm slightly wary when people come from local authorities that they sometimes have things a bit more locked down than the rest of us do.
We certainly do.
I'm sure it's what we want to hear.
Yeah.
Right, I've now got to work out. Right, it's that one. Right, so are you now seeing my browser with YouTube in it?
Yeah.
Yep. All right, let's see what we get if I play it.
And everybody saw that she could do the job. The lawyer went to the baker and saw Simone at work. The lawyer hired John because the baker hired Simone. The baker hired Simone. The dentist went to the lawyer and saw John at work. The dentist hired Sophia because the lawyer hired John, because the baker hired Simone. The baker hired Simone. The farmer went to the dentist and saw Sophia at work. The farmer hired Kate because the dentist hired Sophia, because the lawyer hired John, because the baker hired Simone. The baker hired Simone. The farmer went to the farmer and saw Kate at work. The farmer hired Paul because the farmer hired Kate, because the dentist hired Sophia, because the lawyer hired John, because the baker had Simone. The baker had Simone. The baker went to the barber and saw Paul at work. He didn't have a clue, but it was thanks to his first move that the barber hired Paul, because the farmer hired Kate, because the dentist hired Sophia, because the lawyer hired John, because the baker hired Simone. The baker hired Simone. The baker hired Simone. Yeah.
Well, I think that's a suitably upbeat note that you've come up for. There, so well done with that.
Brilliant.
One.
You can see why I needed the sound now. I wasn't going to sing to you all. That wouldn't have had the same impact. Quite the opposite.
I think the joy in the Basingstoke and Dean video came over as well with the captions. So yeah, thanks for sharing that one, and thanks for coming along with your story today. So I hope we'll follow the example of Simone and all the others in that video that we just saw, and get the word out there to everyone else in our business community to promote the opportunity both for our businesses and for helping people in society who could do with a leg up into employment. Jay, do any of your folk make their way into paid employment? Oh, obviously they do in your own enterprises, but do any of them?
Yes, no. One of the apprentices is just finishing his end assessment in the kitchen, and has secured a job in New Forest hotels in their kitchen as a chef.
Right.
So it's a big step, and it's the first of my kind in terms of, I said to him a year ago, what's the dream? And he said, I want to be a chef. And I said, well, what are you doing in the tea rooms? Come on, out. And he was awful at customer service, I have to say. I would say that to his face, that's fine. But he's much better as a chef. So yeah, it's great news, and we'll be shouting at the rooftops when he actually makes that big step. But of course he leaves a vacancy, and we're excited to be able to bring in the next one. So they don't all go to Furzy as much as some of them would love to. I'm quite hard and I kick them out into the real world.
No, I think, I've seen some of the work in kind of Lily and Lime and all of those sorts of things. You definitely see them. The focus is progression, move out to employment.
Yeah.
I love Thursley Gardens. I think it's a lovely place to take a walk.
Well, you're all very welcome.
I've been there more than a few times. I live just down the road in Lyndhurst, so yeah, I'm quite a regular. Actually, I used to know Pete, your recently retired head gardener, so
yeah,
extra reason for going there. Okay, thanks very much indeed for coming along today, Candice and Tony. It's been, as you've seen, a very enthusiastically received presentation, so thank you for that.